John, you'll have to forgive me. I was a little bit late in initiating our Skype call because I've just received some news, John, and I didn't even tell you this during our pre-show, but
No.
I've just defeated Robert David Steele in federal court, defending myself
Wow.
pro se against the same attorney who is representing Devin Nunes in all of his idiotic lawsuits against fake cows and Twitter and things like this. So I'm on a high, John.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. You've been at this for some time, man.
3
This
years,
lawsuit, how
more than
3
three
years.
years. It delayed my trip to Thailand. I was
I remember you
apprehensive.
I remember you said I need a couple weeks to get my whatever it was you were working on at that moment. And we had to work around your legal schedule to get you to
Yeah.
Thailand. I remember that. I mean, that was a big part of it.
September, I think 17th, 2017, this lawsuit was initiated and it just ended today.
That's unbelievable. Congratulations, man. I know how hard you worked on that, and the fact that you represented yourself, you know, you deserve a lot of accolades for that.
Thank you.
Congrats.
I'm just happy
Nice
that we
job.
shut down a social engineering lawsuit, and hopefully this will serve as a warning to other vexatious litigants, other social engineers who want to bring fake lawsuits to try to upset people. There are still other lawsuits pending against me. One from George, well, let's call him BOG, the brother of George, and the Emmys. But we'll deal with those as they come. Today, John, we're going to talk about who is the king of maps.
Well, John King is sort of the go-to map guy at CNN. And he did something over the weekend or a couple days ago that is just consistent with what we've been talking about as far as fear-mongering about what's happening. And so I felt like it's really important that we fact-check our peers and that we critique their work and that we call somebody like John King out on the carpet.
Yeah.
We need to be able to look at what he's doing and say, John, do you know what you're doing? Are you measuring the right things? And if you're not, allow me to correct you, right? And so in the presentation that I prepared today, you know, one of the disclaimers I think we probably need to start adding to all of our podcasts is that I'm not a doctor, right? You're not a doctor, right? And so we're not giving medical advice whatsoever. There's no medical advice here. There's no medical advice on this show. However, although I am not a doctor, I do have more experience with data than doctors do. And so when it's time to analyze the data, guess who's the professional and guess who's the amateur?
Right.
I've got over 30 years of experience working with data and databases. Doctors don't. So when a doctor is presented with the information from the CDC, these worksheets that you and I have been working on, the charts, the spreadsheets, et cetera, the maps and the data behind the maps, to a doctor, it's gobbledygook. I mean, it might as well be Greek to them, right? And it's like you and I aren't stepping foot into their domain, and we're not diagnosing anybody here. There's no diagnoses that we're making. But similarly, this is my domain. My domain is data. And so we're going to take a look at the data, and we're just going to ask real basic questions because the data that we're looking at is the CDC's data. Right. It's the NIH, right? So we're looking at their data. It's not my data. It's not your data, right? We're looking at the CDC's data. And we're going to see, will the CDC's data back up the CDC's claims? And where is John King from CNN? Where is he getting this stuff from? And is he measuring the right things? And that's what I think you're going to see tonight, is if you measure the wrong things, well, then you're going to end up with the wrong answers, right? So why don't we take a look?
Absolutely. And you know, John, a lot of people are really admiring your new office. Oh, What is that? I got an
Oh, it
Amber
sounds like a.
Alert happening or something. Hang on a second. This is other phones here that are doing that. What is that? It says Amber Alert. Check your local media. What the hell does that mean? I tell you, this Amber Alert. Shepard was with us last night, John. I don't know if you had a chance to see. He's on a nationwide tour going around, just checking out the riots, the protests, everything that was going on after this verdict came down from, I don't know if it was a verdict, but the press conference from Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, who found that the police did not act in the way that we've been told by Black Lives Matter, and Shepard was getting a lot of Amber Alerts. I'm kind of concerned about what that might be. I've never seen it just say check your local whatever. It usually tells you what's going on.
Don't know.
Anyway.
Well, Amber Alert means it's a child abduction, right? There's Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, right? They've got different colors and stuff like that. So
Right.
Silver Alert means it's an older person with Alzheimer's that has wandered away, right? That's a
Maybe
Silver
something's
Alert.
happening with Joe Biden.
That would be a Silver Alert, right? But you're not in Delaware. So if you're in Delaware and there's a Silver Alert, it's a good chance Joe hasn't gotten back from the 7-Eleven. Yeah.
Yeah, but just briefly commenting on your new office, I do want people to take notice that the running water seems frozen in midair. So for those who think that John is blowing out the budget on new digs, this is obviously a background, and John is being very creative with chroma key.
No, that's liquid nitrogen. We have a sink with liquid nitrogen that flows from the faucet very slowly because it's solid.
Excellent.
No, I'm up at Cornell University's laboratories, and figured I'd just stop in and do a little work up here, do a little CRISPR, clone a couple viruses while I was here. So, and
the liquid nitrogen,
the hospitality is fantastic.
And the liquid nitrogen flows like wine. I also noticed just above my head, there's an eyeball icon. I guess it's an eye wash station there, or perhaps it's letting you know that the eye of Horus is looking over your every move while you're in there doing CRISPR experiments.
Indeed. Love the eye of Horus.
So
why don't we take a look at the deck?
Yeah.
Let's go to the PDF and go to the next page, and let's see what we've got here, because there's some really big developments this week. Last week, we had the guys from UK Column on the show. David Scott and Alex Thompson were with us. And one of the things that David Scott shared with us that kind of blew me away was he started talking about this care pathways or something up in Scotland, and how the older people were being dehydrated and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on there? And so I did a little more research into that here in the United States, right, for Americans, to find out what the hell, is this a common thing? Are they doing this all over the world? What's the story? And it's pretty weird. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at what John King did on the maps, and we're going to take a look at a couple other elements. So let's go to the next page. And then I also want to talk a little bit about Rand Paul versus Anthony Fauci. These two squared off at Capitol Hill yesterday. And I don't know if you can just play 60 seconds of this. This is on, this is what you call C-SPAN. So this is from Capitol Hill. And this is Rand Paul talking about the data with Fauci, and basically calling Fauci out and saying, well, why are you not talking about deaths? You're talking about cases. So I don't know if you can pull this up, cue it up right from the beginning, and it's Rand Paul versus Fauci.
You know what? I had to reconfigure all these computers, and I forgot to reconnect the audio on this one. But
don't worry about it. We'll play it later.
Out.
All right, we'll play it later. But again, I encourage everybody to take a look at that. This is Rand Paul versus Fauci. It was on Capitol Hill, I guess, yesterday, the day before yesterday, depending on where you are in the world right now. Mm-hmm. And Rand Paul really squares up with Fauci and about the data. And the thing that I kind of found fascinating was not only did Rand Paul sort of know what was going on, like he's got a clue, but when I read the comments were all liberal. And they were all like, these damn Republicans, they'll argue anything. And it's like, no, 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 no. Rand Paul has the facts. Rand Paul's actually looking at the data. And
Wow.
people are taking the other side of the argument because they've been so brainwashed by Rachel
Yeah.
Maddow and Anderson Cooper and whatever. And it's just fascinating to me to read the comments on that video at YouTube. It's stunning. So I encourage everybody, take a look at that, read the comments. It's wild how people perceive this when faced with facts. And that's what we're
Right.
going to look at next.
And John, this was on the CNN YouTube channel or C-SPAN, or which one was it?
I think it's CNN. Yeah, CNN.
All
You
right, so
just
people can
if you
check
just
that
type
out.
in Rand Paul Fauci, you guys will find it. All right, so bottom line up front, for those of you who are new and haven't watched before and are unfamiliar with why I'm in glasses and a hat, it's because I've named names of people that killed a guy named Phil Haney, and I don't want them to kill me next. So I prefer they kill somebody else next. So I'm in a hat and sunglasses. Phil Haney's dead, and that makes me not paranoid. Makes me cautious. All right. So we're using data from the CDC, and the data from the CDC is on their website. I pull it down, and what I've done is I take the basics that they give you, which is the categorizations, and then I came up with some groupings based on the categorizations. It's kind of simple stuff. I just add, this group and this group and this group, and you get a bigger group. Let's take a look at what it looks like. I keep hearing they want to close all the schools and the colleges, and there's no college, and you can't go to university, and you can't go to school.
Uh-huh.
Let's see if the data supports that argument in the United States.
We're also getting word from the comments, John, that there was an abduction in Pennsylvania, and separately, Florida has lifted the mask regulation.
Okay. All right. Well, not much I can do about the abduction thing, and I hope everybody's safe.
What do we got
But
here?
this should be a stunning revelation. Again, this is another one of those moments that people who are watching this are going to find this very difficult to believe, but it's right on the CDC's website. It's right on their page. This is where I get the data, right? If you look at school-age children from 5 to 14 years old, and the categorizations are theirs, right? So I'm not going to make different, people will be like, well, why don't you divide it at 12 years old? Because that's, basic,
Right.
and then we'll go to junior. I can't do that. It's their data. They're dividing it. I don't decide this. But 5 to 14, basically first grade to middle school, we got 31 kids dead in the entire country that had COVID. Now, might these kids have also had what is Boomer Esiason's kid has that lung disease that children get that's really bad. I forget the name of it. It's a chronic lung disease. Boomer
Asthma?
Esiason's kid. No,
Oh,
no, no,
no.
no. Much worse. Much worse. I forget the name of it. Somebody in the audience will put it up in the chat in a second. You'll see what it is. But if somebody can just type in Boomer Esiason's kid, cystic fibrosis. Cystic
Ah,
fibrosis.
oh,
So if any one of these kids had cystic fibrosis and they got COVID, it's not a surprise, right? And I'm guessing that that's probably what we have there in the 31 kids. Then we go to the next age group, which is 15 to 24. So that's junior high school into college. All right. So your high school age and college age people, what does it say? 300 and how many? 353,
yeah,
351, something
353.
like that. Okay. So that's it in the United States.
It's,
Every university, every high school, every junior high school, every elementary school, you don't have 500 kids dead in the country. Everybody else is older than 25. Those are the facts. I'm sorry. I can't help but deliver incredibly hard to comprehend news because this changes everything. This changes everything. There's
yeah.
31 kids dead in America and they can't go to school. There's 350 kids dead of college age and high school age, and colleges are closed. Well, in this video clip with John King, where he goes on about the maps, he has the doctor, Dr. Jha, from Brown University. In fact, he's
Oh,
the
John,
dean.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but people in the chat have just told us terrible news. It seems
What?
Ron Paul may have had a stroke during his live
Oh,
stream.
oh shoot.
That's terrible.
I,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Oh,
Yep. I see it. Damn it. Oh boy. I'm such a big fan of his too.
well, hopefully he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's bad news.
Yeah. Ay. That's very
Just
sad.
happened 3 hours ago, according to the New York Post. Hopefully he'll be okay. Iggy Mom says he's doing okay now. He suffered a seizure, according to Laney. He's doing okay. Well, that's good news.
All right.
Wow.
Well, he's a doctor. He would know it quickly. If he's having a stroke, he's going to know he's having a stroke, and he'll get aspirin into himself real quick. So if anybody's going to get through it, it's him. Yeah. Prayers with him. He's a hell of a guy, and he's been kind of on our side with this whole argument. He's been data. The data doesn't support it. My disappointment is that he hasn't been talking about the H1N1 outbreak, and that he hasn't.
Well, he might not know.
Latched onto that. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm just disappointed that he hasn't gotten there yet. But hopefully, we'll get him there in a week or two. So yeah, this particular presentation from John King at CNN, he goes into the maps, and I mean, look at how they're representing the country. Look at how red it is, and new cases, and it's up 50%, and it's and it's like a disaster, right? But that's not really what's happening if you measure the right things, right? So what is he measuring here? New cases in the past week versus previous weeks. Well, if you quadrupled your testing capability, right? If you increased your testing, wouldn't you expect that you're going to find more cases? Probably. That's not a disaster, right? Let's go to the next slide and see what kind of panic driving nonsense these guys continue to do. All right, so here's the facts. If we go into a further breakdown by age category, and we look at the COVID-19 deaths by age, up to 44 years old. So all of you with the man buns and the beards. Okay. There's not even 6,000 people in America dead. Less than 6,000, up to 44 years old. Okay. Then you get to your middle ages, right? 45 to 64, I think I put in there, right? 45 to 64. All right. So people who are 45 to 64, how many people do we have dead in that category?
34,048.
All right. So 34,000 people. And of those 34,000, we know that about 6% of them died of just COVID. Right? And we know that more than half of those also had influenza. We know that from previous weeks' reporting. We know that the number one comorbidity was influenza. More than half the people had it. Right? Everybody else here, the 140 something thousand people, almost 150,000, more than 75%. More than 3/4 of the deaths are people who are 65 and older. So let's close all the elementary schools.
Yeah.
You see
the teachers and the principals.
You see the problem. Yeah, you see the problem with facts. The problem with facts is that there's really nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And now what people are facing is, but that's not what CNN is portraying. That's not what Anderson Cooper is saying. That's not what Rachel Maddow is saying. That's not what I'm hearing from that Muir guy with the great hair on ABC.
I don't know that guy.
He's fantastic. He's number one. He's the big dog right now. So the point is they're trying to panic everybody, and yet when you start looking at the data, you can start to make sense of what's going on here. And you can start to do some situational leadership, which means if children aren't dying, maybe closing the schools is unnecessary, right? And how many teachers are 65 and older?
Maybe a
And
lot.
how,
Maybe not
maybe,
that many. They probably
maybe not.
retire pretty close to that age.
Yeah, you get a
Get the
pension when
pension.
you retire.
Right.
Yeah, you get a pension. You're 65. You don't have to work and you get paid, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So all these people in that green wedge there, again, more than half of those people had influenza. So now, and if 6% of that number had just COVID, what's that, 2,000 people? 6% of 34?
It sounds
It's
right.
about,
Yeah.
about 2,000 people. So about 2,000 people younger than 65, and then add in another couple hundred from the yellow wedge. So maybe 2,500 people younger than 65 have died just of COVID, it appears, based on the data from the CDC. I could be wrong. And
Yeah.
if somebody from the CDC wants to come on the show and explain to us how we have miscalculated this, absolutely, you guys are welcome. We'd love to have you.
John, I
Come on.
almost feel like this category could have been 45 to 55 and 55 to 65, because I bet you 45 to 55 is going to be way smaller numbers than 55 to 65.
It's on the previous page. It's in the data. I sent it to
Right.
you. Go up a page if you want to look at it. One more. There you go. It's right there.
Ah.
You can zoom in. That's the real data. So you got 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54. It's right. It's in like the third column.
Oh, I see it right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got it. And then the number to the right of it is the official number for that
So
age.
it's 10,000, 45 to 54. Right, and twice as many, 55 to 64.
All right, so make sure the audience understands that observation you just made. Explain that to everybody.
So, I mean, I fit into this category of 45 to 54, and obviously I'm a lot younger than 54, and I'm pretty healthy. I think a lot of people age 45 to 50 are pretty healthy, and obviously as everybody starts to get older, health deteriorates. So the bottom end of that category has half as many as the top half.
Right, and it would be safe to say that there's 2.5 times, or 2.4 times more people dying in that 55 to 64 category than in the 45 to 54. So there's a significant difference in risk as you go up just 10 years. It's significant. But again, for the children, when we look at the kids in high school and college, it was negligible, right?
Yeah.
So again,
Before we go much further, John, we need to take a moment because we're just about at the end of our lead in here. And, we've been very much doing pretty much exactly what the sponsor exclusive show is going to be. John's going to take everybody through very detailed reports like these. This is not information or numbers that John has made up or extrapolated, anything like that. He's downloading this literally from public databases on the CDC's website. They offer this to anyone. And all John has done is taken this data, put it into visualization tools that he's familiar with, and made these interesting and informative charts that tell us a lot more about the very same data that's going into some of these less illustrative charts that we're all being frightened with by people like John King on CNN, who basically wants everybody to freak out and make sure that they mail in their votes for Joe Biden, because if you, according to CNN, or go to the treacherous location of the polling place, you could be at risk of coronavirus.
Well, I think also it gives a reason for Joe Biden to not be in public.
Correct.
They
a lot of
they
things.
have a rationale. They have a rationale to not have him doing events.
Right.
Right. And as soon as there's no rationale, come on out, Joe. Let's go hit the rope line. Let's go hit the rope line, Joe. Let's see how that works out. Right. They don't want that to happen.
No.
Right. So, all right, before we go patron only, there's a major break tonight in the patron only show that is kind of earth shattering. A couple weeks ago, I said to you, you know how sometimes what you think is the story is not the story,
Yes.
right? We thought it was coronavirus and bats, and then Shepard shows up, and next thing you know, we're talking about asteroids, and the next thing you know, we're talking about pneumonia and influenza, and the P&I deaths are more. And then we realize that they've been covering up the P&I death numbers for years. And that when Fauci says 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, the system is showing 180, 175,000. Okay.
Wow.
Well, why is that?
Yeah.
How is that possible? Well, I finally found the Rosetta Stone. I found the explanation from the CDC of how they calculate what they call influenza disease burden.
Huh.
And I'm going to show the audience how this is another really bad magic trick. And this is why I use these illusions to show you. I use them as a metaphor because when I show you now the illusion from the CDC, you guys are just going to shake your head and go, they really thought they're just going to get away with this.
Hmm.
Like nobody really looked. And no, nobody really looked. And tonight I'm going to show you how the CDC has been getting away with this, it appears, since at least 2009. And again, we've talked about there was a moment in time when everybody realized Bill Cosby was not such a pudding pop kind of guy. There was a moment in time when everybody realized that Harvey Weinstein was less a really benevolent producer and more a rapist,
I don't think
right? There
anybody
was
ever
that
thought
tipping
he
point.
was a benevolent anything. And I'm sorry to intrude on what you're saying, John, but we do have to go. We've got to transition over
All right.
to subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. I hope we'll see everybody over there. Please join us. Can't keep smacking down these social engineering fake lawsuits without your support. So join us on Patreon and Subscribestar, and we'll be back in just 2 minutes. I'll see you over there, John.
Nice job.